Alright, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise and glory to Yahweh, Hashem Yahushai, Hashem Rakakodash, double honor to the elders and apostles of great news, so not do well. Salutations to the Aki and preaching the truth to the four corners of the earth in sincerity. Entitled this video, Stay Humble, right? Because this brother was going into how you should respect even when brothers dealing with you and the brothers who was feeding you when you just came in. Now we standing side by side on the highways and we doing the will and the work of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. I have a small part to play with he said. If you get bear with me.
How can you say that you're humble unto Yahushai, but you're not humble unto a brother, and the spirit of Yahushai dwells in him? Man, that's John 7, verse 7, man. Let's not forget, man, these scriptures apply to us, too, man. Let's not just pull these scriptures out and curse everybody else and not look at the man in the mirror, like Michael Jackson said.
Alright, and it's a serious thing because the oldest saying in the world, you're pointing one finger up or you pointing a finger and three fingers pointing at you. Because really and truly, when a brother dealing with you, you're supposed to consider him as a brother, right? That he dealing with you and that he's a messenger from the Lord. And because at the same time too, you look at your work, you look at how this brother is shining, because it's something where the scripture says, I'm gonna precept real quick. Right, there's the book of Matthew chapter 5 and verse 16, and it reads, "Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven." Right, so if this is an instruction unto us, letting our light shine before men that they may see it and glorify the Lord. You don't think it'll have other brothers in that same mindset. They will have men in that same mindset who letting the light so shine, and by letting the light shine, other men gonna see it. Like for instance, me, I would see it. Right? I see it in brothers. I see it in, brothers that I'm among, and I see it in brothers that we via the unicorn, right? The internet and other things. You see brothers light and you glorify Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, and sometimes they even ask the Lord that you want to be in that spirit, because you want to be in a spirit where anybody could talk to you and that knowledge not puffing you up where you can't hear, brother. You understand? Always had to have our open ears. This truth is about order. Yeah, we know. We know you have to keep our order from elder brothers come down. But also it's vice versa where the more greater you are, I'm gonna get that one. As the book of Sirach chapter 3 and verse 18, straight to the point. It says, "The greater thou art, the more humble thyself, and thou shalt find favor before the Lord." Yeah, because the Lord knowing that, yeah, what good knowing. You are man, you learning in this thing, but it didn't become hype, it didn't become spritey. You understand? You didn't become proud, you know the truth, and you apply the truth. You understand? That there's a certain brother that you could also point out this on, because he's exercising it. I didn't puff him up. Right? I'll continue. I'll just read it over verse 18, Sirach 3 and 18. It says, "The greater thou art, the more humble thyself, and thou shalt find favor before the Lord. Many are in high place and of renown, but mysteries are revealed unto the meek. For the power of the Lord is great, and he is honored of the lowly." Yeah. Somebody that put itself low. Because there was a point in time where Yahushua was going to wash the feet of his servants, and he was like, "Lord, you can't wash my feet." And he was like, "If I don't do this, you have no part with me." Right? So the Lord was really showing us as well too. He is great in position, but look at him washing your feet. You understand? We have to wash each other's feet. We have to keep our open ears. Right? Keep our open ears to any brother and any situation, because at the same time too, it don't matter if it take 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, that is the man of the Lord. That is the Lord's chosen. He chose that guy to be a part of this, and who is to know if he is part of the elect or not? Right? So what if he is part of the elect? Right? And even self, even because we none of us knows, right? That is the messenger of the Lord. The Lord sent that message to come out. Now at certain times brothers might say certain things in the and they need to be corrected on it. You know, corrected and structured better. That is why I was backing off of this brother's video, because they're dealing with how to deal with brothers. Right? They're dealing with being more humble and dealing with all these situations, and it was so yappa and soothing to the spirit, because it's something where we try to keep our bond even tighter among the brethren. You understand that we see it ourselves as woman and whoever, if you have home and family members, whatever the case may be, can't get in between the brethren. Right? Because even went into not forsaken, and even went into a lot of stuff. Right? Even when it say it mentioned, let me get that precept. I don't want to butcher it. I know the precept. Restore such an one. Alright, this is the book of Galatians. Galatians chapter 6 and verse 1, verse 9. Let's see if I get it here. Alright, it's Galatians 6 and 1. It says, Brethren, if a man be overtaken in a fault, ye which are spiritual, restore such an one in the spirit of meekness, considering thyself, lest thou also be tempted. Because any man can be tempted, right? Scripture says, when you come into the truth, prepare your soul for temptation. So anybody can be tempted, right, by different things. Now we understand that when it says, if a man be overtaken in a fault, right, ye which are spiritual, and all of us consider ourselves to be spiritual, even a young brother who is trying to speak, he also is a man of the Lord. He been on the highways toiling. He also would be considered spiritual. So he being considered spiritual is not that he can't say anything. However, he does need to understand that restore such an one in the spirit of meekness. And the same thing applies to any other brother. Restore such an one within the spirit of meekness. You understand? Being meek, being humble. And let's have a little bit more to play in the video.
To listen, man. You know, don't let's not forget, man. We get into these scriptures to, prophesy the downfall of this whore, man. But let's not forget, man, these scriptures are also for our edification, man. Don't be reading over these scriptures and, forget that you yourself are included in these scriptures, you know. Don't pull James 1:19 and talk about, the so-called black woman or the so-called Hispanic one, and talk about y'all gotta shut up. Well, this scripture applies to us, man. When it's time to get correction, man, we gotta be slow to speak. We gotta be quick to listen too. We ain't got it, and so if you're not gonna listen to the brethren, Who are you going to listen to, man? The brethren have been put in our lives to show us direction, man.
And I have a point that the brother just mean what he said, if you're not gonna listen to the brethren, then who you gonna listen to? The brethren been put in our life as a center direction. I'm gonna just play what I played that last part.
So, if you're not going to listen to the brethren, who are you going to listen to, man? The brethren have been put in our lives to show us direction, man. Yahushua sent the apostles out in two. Why is that? Because the scriptures say a triple braided cord is not easily broken, man.
And that so yeah, because he mentioned the triple braided cord is not easily broken. One. Secondly, because the scripture say if one was to travel, right, all that puffed upness not gonna help you when somebody actually come up to the camp. And what do we say? One man come up to the camp and beat your ass, right? And your brother was there to defend it or whatever the case may be, right? Or you end up in a situation where you and your brother on the situation alone and something happens and your brother happen to react quickly or whatever the case may be and he save your life. Now you'll be glad for that. Now why in a situation where it comes to correction, you're not taking consideration of it? And that's what the brother initially went into in the video as well too. He said we linking up every whenever we link up and we fellowshipping. But why when we fellowshipping, why are we linking up is one thing, but when it's time to get corrected, it's not happening. Then the acceptance of the correction not there. You understand? It's like shunning out the Yahushua for one thing, and after when it's time to go into other things, yeah, we all for that. But when it applied to me, I know about that. That bullshit. Really and truly, you're supposed to take heed in any matter, small or great. You understand? You're supposed to take heed into all matters. Right? You play some more?
Each other, man. Matter of fact, the bishop, Tasman, he put that video out. Right now, it's not the time to try to go at this thing alone, man. Right now is the time to lock in. So how can you say that you're locked in, but you don't want to listen to a brother's exhortation? Or, if a brother's pushing you, hey, man, make sure that you do this video. Make sure that you get your prayers done. Make sure that you get these tribes done. Make sure that you're doing these 3 videos. Make sure that you're watching what you eat. Make sure that you're walking. Make sure that you're, staying fit. Whatever it may be. How can you say that you're locked in, but you don't want to listen to what the brothers say? Why? Because maybe you've gotten, comfortable. You've gotten comfortable around being with the brethren, man. Don't be that person, man. Don't forget that scripture. A prophet is without honor, even in his own family, man. Don't be like that, man. Don't look at the brethren like he's just a man. He's not a man. That's that same man that probably, gave you the fed you while you were coming into this truth. And now what? Because you're into this truth, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it may be, man. Now you don't want to listen in because now you got the spirit. Nah.
Yeah, and that is a big stumbling block. You don't want to listen to that brother because now you are the spirit. That is pride. That is knowledge puffing up. You understand? You let that knowledge puff you up in a sense where you don't recognize. And that's why the scripture mentioned examine yourself. Let me get that precept. The 2 Corinthians 13 and verse 5. It says, examine yourselves whether ye be in the faith. Prove your own selves. Right? Prove it to your own self. First, it says whether you be in the faith. How you doing that? That means you have to compare yourself to a man of the Lord. That means you have to go through. everything that a man of the Lord supposed to be doing. You understand? Character wise. And examine it. You could even examine it in certain situations. How you deal with it. Is this how a man of the Lord supposed to deal with it? This is how they dealt with it in the scriptures, because the scriptures say everything that was written for our learning. Right? So now I'm going to read it over. It says, examine yourself whether you be in the faith. Right? You're not just dealing with the resume. Right? Let me say resume. Because when you understand that it talks about a man of the Lord supposed to be doing his works, he's supposed to be going out on the highways and byways, doing his personal videos, making full proof of your ministry, right? He's supposed to be keeping these laws, statutes, and commandments, right? Well, we keep the laws, statutes, and commandments. We try to keep the laws, statutes, and commandments to the best of our ability. You know, some of them other camps don't promote it. That is all well and fine with them. But with us, we would do it, right? Fellowshipping, you know. So as we practicing to be more humble, more meek. There's a lot of things. A man is supposed to have morals. You know, keeping yourself at a certain standard. If you have a family, taking care of your family, not being an infidel. Infidel go back to unbeliever. Right? There's things that you should be doing, and the reason why it's hard, you have to examine yourself to see if you're doing these things is because when you're letting your light shine now and other men seeing it, you don't want them to see the bad parts. You don't want them to see the parts where the old man in here, because that is not a good role model for them to watch on. That is not somebody for them to really pull something from and say, right, I like how this brother does do this, and I like how this brother does do that. You understand? He's supposed to be able to say, I like how this brother does expound. I like how this brother does I like how he edifies the flock. You know? This is what he's supposed to be seeing and saying here. I could try to be more like this brother. I could try to, you know? Because that is it really and truly Yahushai. Because the scripture said that is Yahushai within us. It's not our thing. It's not a we thing. It's a Yahushai thing. And he taking care of us and making sure that we stay in that spirit. That is why I have correction, and that is why I have the scripture said that all this was given for exhortation, for what? For perfecting of the flock, for edification, for correction. Just roughly paraphrasing, but we know the precept. All that the Lord gave us here was for that reason. Alright, so I'm going to continue here again. Examine yourself whether you be in the faith. Prove your own selves. Know ye not your own selves, how that Yahushua is in you, except you be reprobate. So Yahushua be in us, and if not, then you are reprobate. If you can't examine yourself and see what it is you have to do. Right? That is verse 6 say, but I trust that ye shall know that we are not reprobates. A man could more than take it upon himself and examine himself. Man or woman, it doesn't matter. But examine yourself. And when you're done with the evaluation, if you tell yourself you're good, that's crazy, because all of us has work to do. And if you're doing the required things that you're supposed to do, just continue in all humility. And let your light shine among brethren and men, and, you know, glorify our Shema shine. All of us could continue. All of us could just continue doing this thing and do it to the best of our ability. Alright? Alright? And the thing about it is, it will be difficult, because at the same time too, brothers was in the world and we in the flesh, and we come back to this thing relearning, as the brother went into, right? Relearning, because you didn't just wake up with the knowledge of the Lord in your mind. You understand? You was taught this, and the people them who was teaching you this, right? And not only that, you was taught this from brothers, from prophets, right? And these prophets would have been at the same position we were in at some point in time. they would have been in a position where they were in the world as well, and the Lord came to them, and the Lord waked them up and taught them the truth. And they would have been in a position where they would be fighting with the spirit, yeah, wrestling with the spirit, yeah, because as the scripture says, we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principality. And with the wrestling in the spirit, right, is where you see them conquer that. And now they could come and talk to you about it. And they could tell you and discern it and see it and say, brother, I went through this. You understand? I could give you some advice on how to go through it. And you know, bucking up against it, you don't want to hear that. Right? It's a sense of with pride. Because as I was telling a man, I was telling a slack, I was telling a brother, I was like, when you now come into the truth, you're willing to do anything to come into the truth. You're thinking, you're sacrificing all your time. You understand? You're doing the most because you're feeling like this is where you belong. This is where you have to do what you have to do. Right? So don't let us lose that spirit and keep that zeal, willing to do anything. And any obstacle come, fuck that. We in the spirit. We'll fight it together. Because in this world you're gonna have obstacles. You understand? You'll get flat tires and your brother car might break down with you and your brother. Your engine might shut down with you and your brother in the sea. And you might have to travel it out with him. Because this happened to us many times with different brothers. For me, the engine shut down and we in the sea and we wherever the boat take us, we go in. But we know that the Lord will protect us and save us out of it. Right? So these little situations and little stuff and little hurdles while they being in the truth, they are all just yet hurdles. You understand? And as soon as we could examine ourselves and jump over them hurdles, the better. Either we could go on to the next test and the next test, because the Lord is the one sending the test. Right? So Lord willing, this lesson is edifying through the spirit and power we have about Hashem Yahushai, about Hashem Kakadash. Said that we're to the elders and apostles of great millstone and really well. Salutation to Yaki and preaching the truth to the four corners at the 18th and 30. Shalom.